Hi everyone, Miss O'Connor here. I'm going to show you how to make a self-portrait today. What you're going to need is unlined paper or a notebook, a pencil, and with an eraser. And if you'd like to, you can also have a sharpener. The first thing I'm going to do is make a egg shape, which sounds kind of funny, but an oval also works too. But notice on your face how you have a wider space for your forehead and eyes versus a smaller shape for your chin and your mouth. So on my paper, I normally start at the top and give some room for your hair later. I'm going to start drawing this oval shape. Now I always like to go light until I get it right, and so in case I make a mistake, I can always erase. This might take a few times. In fact, I'm doing a few strokes at a time to meet them. I don't just do one giant circle at once. And there I have my shape so far. And again, that's pretty light. And I'll keep stopping to show you. My next step is to draw a T shape across the face. So first I'm going to do a vertical line. So on my paper, I start at the top, going very lightly and going straight through. Very light. Now about halfway up my paper, here's my chin, I'm going to go halfway up, a little bit higher is where I'm going to draw a horizontal line. Very lightly. This is where your eyes are going to go. And that's actually what I'm going to do next. Now, a lot of people, when they draw eyes, they automatically think it's a giant circle. But in reality, it's more of an almond shape or a football shape. So I'm first going to draw the top one, and then I'll do the bottom one to meet it on that line I just did horizontally. So about right here, it's kind of hard to see those lines. I'm going to draw my first eye in this area, leaving a little bit of space in between. So I have one, and right below it, I do my second one. Now if you feel like your eye looks too small compared to your head, you can erase and try again. But I think this looks pretty okay right now. So I'm going to go on the other side. Everyone meet Elvira, my helper today. On the other side, I do that top curve again, and then a bottom curve. Mine was even a little wiggly there, so I'm going to edit it just a little bit. Now that I have those two shapes, I'm pretty happy with them. I'm going to go in the inner part of my eye, which is a true circle. That's where my eye color will go later. Nope. Now I touch that circle to the bottom and top of my football. So they look like this. Now as we keep on moving, it might look a little creepy, but as you keep going, it'll look less creepy, I promise. Now the inner part of that color is going to be that black dot. You are welcome to do that now as well, and that will go right on top of that horizontal line you did before. Like this. Now I can add my lid. Now I have a pretty large lid, so it's going to be farther away from my eye than probably yours will be. And how I do that is I just draw a parallel line right on top. That is not to be confused with your eyebrows. Your eyebrows are going to be even higher, and there's two ways to do this. One, you can do each little individual hair going in the direction that it grows, or you can do one line for the top and one line for the bottom. What I mean by that is one line for the top and one line for the bottom. Or you can go individually with each hair. Now whatever I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. So our faces are very symmetrical. That's what I have so far. My next step is going to be my nose. Now when you're looking in the mirror, you'll notice that this face actually does not have any lines. Normally, sometimes when we draw straight vertical lines going down, but in reality they're not really there. But it is a helpful guide to get to this part. So you can draw really light lines coming down with that curve, going right in between your eyes. That vertical line will go in between. You can erase these later. So it's okay if you do that at first, but we don't really want to see those dark lines later. So for instance, let me make sure that's focused. I am going to have one line lightly come down here, and one line lightly come down there. And about halfway between your eyes and your chin is going to be your nose. The way that I draw noses is like a parentheses. So it looks kind of like a C, but it's a little looser and a little wider. So I start with one C over here, or parentheses. Another one over here, meeting it, and then kind of an upside down one in between. And you can add a little bit of darkness where your nostrils would go, but these should not be perfect circles. Otherwise, you're going to end up looking a little pig-like if you have giant circles for your nostrils. Now, in between your nose and your chin is going to be your mouth. This is when you decide if you're going to be closed mouth and smiling or all those teeth. Because if you're smiling, you're going to notice this line suddenly goes up a bit. So let's determine where that middle line will be to begin with. And what I mean by that is in between your lips, you have that deeper line. That's what we're going to draw first. So about halfway through, I'm going to do a slight curve. In fact, I kind of had a wiggle. I'm going to erase, come back out. Now this line should not go from all the way from one side all the way to the other. Otherwise, it's going to look a little cartoon-like. Now that I have these two lines, or this one line, I should say, it's time to do the upper lip. Now, upper lip is going to be one curve on one side and another curve on the other side. Now, if you have a larger upper lip, you're going to want to separate it more from that first line. If you have thinner lips, it'll be closer to that first line. So let's see how I do. And now for my bottom lip, again, determining how thick your lips are going to be, you can always erase. If it is wider, it's going to be further down. If it is thinner, it'll be further up. One side, and then the other. All right, now that we have those features done, I can think about the ears unless my hair is covering it. And the way I do that is I start that line I did originally for my eyes, and I'm going to create this really long C, just like that. Now if your earlobes are a little bit more prominent, you can create more of an earlobe shape. But whatever you do on one side, again, do to the other, like this. Now it's time for hair. I want you to think, is my hair curly, straight, wavy, short, long? It's time to reflect that in your drawing. Of course, you can have your hair up. If you really want it to look like you, I recommend drawing it as is right now. So for me, I kind of got this like curly, wavy thing going on, and it has some volume at the top. And in fact, some pieces are covering on top of my face, and I am going to show that. So the way I see it here, I'm going to have my part start over here, come down kind of wavy, and have that line reflect my curl. Now, instead of leaving the hair just on top, though, I'm going to go right on top of my face. And then I can erase this line to show where that hair actually is. Now, for the other side, I'll do the same thing. It's okay if it's not perfect. Just try to draw what you see. I have some pieces in the front and some pieces towards the back. Now for your neck, say if your hair was behind you, I want you to notice how your neck actually starts where your ears are. So you're going to do a vertical line going down, and then about like a little bit below your chin, you're going to start swooshing it out for your shoulders. A common mistake is having your shoulders end where your face is. Imagine if my shoulders were that small. Oof. Gotta bring it all the way out. So let's start with having my neck start up here, a vertical line, a vertical line. And if you think that's too wide, you can curve it in more. Erase, erase, curve it in, and now I can create a diagonal line for my shoulders. But for me, I have more hair in the front normally, so I might add that coming down and erase later. It's a pretty good base. Now for inherited traits, which are things that you get from your parents, it's also important to include that too in your self-portrait to make it look like yourself. So now would be the time, if you have freckles, for instance, like I do, or beauty marks, it's time to add them in. So I'm going to add a beauty mark here, and I'm going to add some freckles by doing little tiny dots. Hammering your pencil, that doesn't quite work so well, so I like to go in and add little dots as I see them. And it's also time now to add things that you might have forgotten, like eyelashes, or maybe you want to fix those eyebrows a bit, or maybe adjust your nose. But I know I have a few eyelashes. They're not too prominent right now, but I'm going to do little tiny swooshes near my eyeball. And so far, so good. Now it would be time to show off all of my inherited traits through color, which means hair color, skin color, eye color, or many other things too that you might think of. But so far, this is not too shabby. But there's one thing we almost forgot. It is time to erase those vertical and horizontal lines. So lightly with my pencil, or my eraser I should say, I'm going to go through and just erase those lines to make this a complete drawing. Now, of course, if you really want to challenge yourself, you can add some shadows. And the way that we would do that is by adding just the lines really lightly on top of each other. Cross-hatching, which means going different directions to create some shadows to really make it look realistic. And you can use your finger even to smudge it. You can add that to any features, maybe your laugh lines or where you're smiling would be a good place to add those too. But for right now, this is looking pretty good. Now it's time to add color. Have fun.